I woke up in this world as a secondary character, in a story that had already been told to the end. There was no more room for choices, no freedom to change course. Everything was already written. I was the background villain, the one who got in the way of the good guy taking his university exam. And because of that, I ended up on my knees, humiliated in front of my 2 older sisters. The oldest, Maria, hit me with a piece of wood, demanding that I bow 1,000 times before getting up. The other, Sophia, threw a bottle of pesticide at me with contempt, shouting that despicable people like me deserved to die. What they didn't expect was for me to start laughing and, without hesitation, swallow the entire contents of the bottle in one go. Panic took hold of them both. They turned pale. "Are you crazy?" they asked. "Why did you drink that like it was soda?" The pain in my body was nothing compared to the pain of existing in this role as a disposable antagonist. I was kneeling, covered in bruises, when Maria, with that icy stare, ordered me, "Apologize to Makoto or die." He, the protagonist, tried to intervene with his false kindness, asking them not to beat me because of him. He said he had only failed the exam, that he could try again, even work if necessary. But that only made my sisters angrier. Sophia, in her high heels, kicked me in the stomach and demanded that I apologize immediately. Instead, I stared at the bottle, now empty, and laughed. So this was how an NPC was treated by his own family. The original world predicted my death by suicide, a brutal stabbing. But I thought drinking the pesticide would still fulfill my destiny. I was wrong. I stayed alive. I found out that the salesman had diluted the poison to make more money, and, ironically, that saved me. When he showed up with a bag of fruit in his hand and a relieved expression, swearing he had done it out of greed, I almost laughed. Sophia stared at me with red eyes from crying so much. "It was just a joke when, did you get so weak?" she said. But the original character wasn't weak. He was the convenient villain of the story, always sabotaging Makoto, the protagonist. In his last attempt, he had put laxative in his food to prevent him from going to the exam. Repentant, he switched plates, but Makoto still didn't go, claiming diarrhea. In other words, he faked it. Sophia wanted to know why I was silent, and her eyes showed something almost like concern. Since I was little, I had picked on her, and that's why she hated me. At school, as a teacher, she accused me of cheating and got me beaten by our parents. Even now, I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to die and end it all. Because today was the day the original died. And that was what I needed to do to return to my world. She yelled at me to say something, grabbed me tightly, and on impulse I pushed her. She fell to the floor. Maria came running and slapped me, demanding that I respect my sister. She, who had always been distant, only started pretending to care after Makoto came into our lives. He was the adopted son, the darling of the family, and everything had revolved around him ever since. Maria accused me of ruining everything for Makoto and assaulting my sister. I could only feel the frustration of the original character. He tried so hard, making coffee, washing clothes, polishing shoes, and yet he was always beaten for the slightest mistake. I went to the door, pushed Maria hard, and yelled at her. Makoto appeared at that moment. His presence disgusted me. How could someone like him be the center of the story? I got out of bed and slapped him hard, saying that he, a stranger, had no right to say anything there. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the building's terrace, 20 floors, one jump, and it would all be over. I closed my eyes and prepared myself, but a force pulled me back. I fell to the ground and saw a girl in front of me. Her face was small, her eyes huge and bright. She said, "Jorge, don't die." Her voice trembled. I remembered who she was. A classmate who was almost invisible in the plot, named Lucia, an extra. Her only role in the original story was to ask the protagonist to buy her breakfast. Now she was holding my hand tightly, afraid I would jump. "The world is still beautiful," she said. "We'll finish the exam. We'll go to college. Life will be good." I wanted to reply that this didn't apply to me, but something stopped me. I just whispered, "Okay." Her smile lit up. "Remember what I told you?" She continued, "I heard you were sick and came to see how you were. Otherwise, you would have done something irreversible. Don't listen to what your sisters say. You're important to other people too." I nodded, not quite understanding. She led me out of the building and took me to a simple restaurant. She ordered pasta with meat, a double portion for me. "Eating well and having fun is what makes life worth living," she said, smiling. I was holding the hot plate, about to thank her, when a shadow appeared and hit me hard. The broth spilled over my clothes. Maria stood before me with a cold expression. "I knew you were faking it. That was just water." She said it was all an act to manipulate our feelings. Lucia yelled at her to leave me alone and stood between us. But I gently pushed her away and faced Maria. I grabbed a handful of meat with my fingers and threw it at her made-up face. "Didn't your mother ever teach you not to interrupt someone who's eating?" Another piece of meat flew straight into her face. She recoiled, shocked. "If you bother me again, next time it'll be acid on your face." She screamed my name in anger, but I smiled and threw one last piece of meat right in the middle of her mouth. "Not even meat can shut you up, huh?" When I read the original story, I always hated this older sister. Everything about her was arrogant and cold, always forcing me to lower myself because of Makoto. She even took the scholarship I had worked so hard to get to buy him a guitar. Later, I took Lucia home. On the way, she told me to change my clothes. "Wet clothes are bad for you." I nodded. I knew there was something strange about the relationship between her and the original character. "Jorge, you're different. You didn't treat your sister like that before." She looked at me curiously. I smiled. "People change." The original should have died, but I was still living for him. So as long as I was alive, he wouldn't suffer anymore. When I got home, I found Sophia sitting on the couch. She seemed to be waiting for me. I thought she was going to criticize me. So I ignored her and headed for my room, where I would think about how to end it all once and for all. But to my surprise, she called out to me, "Brother, I want to talk." I turned slowly. "Brother?" She called me brother. After a moment, I replied, "Go ahead." She said, "I was the one who bought the pesticide. Don't blame the salesman. I know you really wanted to die today. I want to know why." If you're enjoying this intriguing and engaging story, leave a like and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of our plots. Let's continue. Finally, a normal person had appeared in this absurd narrative. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't change anything. The original story had already been written, and in it, this same girl ended up taking the protagonist's life. I laughed to myself and whispered, "How funny. What else could it be?" She and the others, guided by their blind fascination with Makoto, had destroyed the protagonist little by little, taking everything he had from him. How could he not want to die? When she tried to continue the conversation, I just turned around and walked away. There was no more room for regret. I had already made up my mind. This had to end. I began to consider a new idea. Suicide by natural gas leak. It would be silent, lethal, and I could take the whole family with me. I waited until dawn. I went down the stairs in absolute silence and went to the kitchen, ready to open the valve. But Makoto appeared. She suddenly threw open the door, scaring me. She approached me, with that look full of contempt and mockery. "Again with this act to get your sisters to feel sorry for you," he said, laughing as if he knew everything. "I've been watching you all day waiting for this cheap trick." Then he turned on, the light and pulled a knife from the kitchen, waving it in front of me theatrically. "Tell me, what do you think they'll think if they see me hurt with this?" It disgusted me. It was a ridiculous script from a cheap soap opera that I knew by heart. Finally, I could react. I grabbed the knife from his hand and, without hesitation, cut my own arm. "Let's make a deal, 1 cut each. How about it?" Makoto turned pale and backed away. He looked at me as if I were a lunatic. Some people fear death. I don't. I turned on the stove and then turned it off with a jet of water. I looked at him with contempt. "Are we going to kill ourselves? Together here?" And Makoto screamed like a terrified child. "Sister, help! Jorge wants to kill me!" I laughed at his cowardice. I continued closing the windows while the blood from my arm dripped onto the floor. When Sophia and Maria arrived, the scene was a nightmare. Blood everywhere. Makoto crying on the floor, and me standing there, bleeding. Sophia was the first to react, running to the stove and turning everything off. "Quick, he's hurt. Take him to the hospital." Maria stood still, not approaching. She just picked up Makoto. "He wanted to kill us with gas and you want to save this madman?" Sophia was angry. "He's only like this because we made him this way. Have you ever stopped to think about how we treated him all these years?" My vision was darkening from the loss of blood. But I heard every word. For the first time, she was saying something sensible. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. My arm had been bandaged. Sophia was there, looking worried. "Jorge, please don't do this anymore. If something is bothering you, talk to me." Maria, however, came in furious and slapped me so hard that my head spun. "If Makoto hadn't screamed, would you have really killed everyone? Why are you so cruel?" The slap echoed in my ear, and in the next second, I returned it in kind. Her face swelled up instantly. Her anger was evident, her eyes bulging. "Sophia, you see? This is the brother you defend so much." Sophia looked confused, disappointed. "Jorge, you've crossed the line. I've always tried to protect you, but you're getting worse." I thought she was different, but deep down she was just as limited as the other one. I laughed bitterly. "Did I ask you to defend me?" "Jorge!" she shouted. "Sophia!" I replied, raising my voice. "Let's see who can shout louder now." And it was as if all the stress of another world exploded inside me. I grabbed the fruit knife from the table next to me and ran it across my neck. Want to compete to see who's crazier? Warm blood flowed, staining the sheets white and red. They turned pale. Sophia started screaming for help. Maria ran over and pressed the wound with her trembling hands. "You're a complete lunatic," she said. At that moment, I remembered when the original protagonist was a child. At that time, Maria and Sophia took him out to eat and taught him piano. Maybe he was happy for a while. But now, those same sisters wanted him to disappear. Dying seemed easy. Choose a secluded spot and end it all. But even after trying several times, I still couldn't do it. I was always saved. This time was no different. Back in the hospital, surrounded by tubes and machines, I saw my parents coming in. When they saw me, my mother started screaming, "You want to die, is that it? Do you have any idea how scared you scared Makoto? He's traumatized." My father spat on the floor and said, "How could I have a son like you? I regret ever bringing you into this world." They seemed to have forgotten how they used to spoil the original protagonist. Everything changed with Makoto's arrival. He became the center of attention. They treated a stranger better than their own son. I pulled the needle out of my arm, threw a vase on the floor, and shouted, "If you care so much about Makoto, go take care of him. What are you doing here then?" They looked at me as if I were a wild animal. They didn't say anything. They just turned around and left. Soon after, Maria and Sophia returned. Maria looked at the damage around her, gave me that look of contempt. I knew so well, and said, "Even though you have our blood, you're not worth half of what Makoto is worth. He's an adult and all he knows how to do is threaten suicide. How pathetic." Pathetic. That was one of the words that hurt the original character the most. Maybe that's why he gave up. He had a rich family, everything within his reach. But the author designed him to destroy himself. After Maria left, Sophia stood there watching me in silence. When we were little, you were annoying, always playing pranks. Then I thought you would grow up, that you would understand. I even tried to touch your heart with the bond we have, but you still don't listen to me. If you want to die, go to a corner and die. Stop making us find these scenes. I laughed. All right, next time, you won't have to find anything. She was speechless, got up and left. But not before giving me a look of pure disappointment. I was about to try again when Lucia appeared. Her eyes were teary. You promised you wouldn't do this. You said we'd go to college together. Something trembled inside me. I felt guilty, but I knew that emotion wasn't mine. It was his. From the original. Lucia, you're a good girl. You have a bright future ahead of you. You shouldn't waste your time with me. I'm a failure. I'm going to die sooner or later. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. You're not a failure. And she took a pink envelope out of her pocket. It's a letter, a love letter. I've liked you for a long time. I was afraid that one day you would leave without me giving this to you. My heart trembled. I opened the envelope carefully. The letter said, Jorge, I don't believe in gods, but since I met you, I've started to believe you are my God. Every time I see you, I'm mesmerized. The words pierced me. Tears flowed uncontrollably. She hugged me tightly. Please don't die. For a moment, I thought about staying. But that feeling wasn't mine yet. It was his. If I don't die, can I go home? I remained silent, reflecting. In the end, everyone thinks about themselves. And I have that right too. If you're enjoying this intriguing and engaging story, leave a like and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of our plots. Let's continue. That was the pact between him and the author. In the days that followed, Lucia was by my side the whole time. She took me to see the sunset and told me that there were still many beautiful landscapes in the world, that as long as I was alive, I could continue to enjoy each one of them. She also took me to try dozens of different dishes, saying that living was, above all, enjoying good food. She really wanted the original protagonist to continue existing. She just didn't know that. He was already gone. Sophia and Maria didn't show up again. They seemed to have given up on me. Until one day, Makoto showed up. He looked at me with that typical contempt and said, I knew you wouldn't have the courage to die. You did all this just to make your sisters feel guilty. A little play of pain. But I can do that too. And then he added threateningly, just wait. I'll kick you out of the Wang family forever. I didn't even bother to answer. I closed my eyes, thinking of a way to leave this world without Lucia finding out. That night, she returned to her mother's house, who needed help. As soon as I was alone, I prepared to end it all. But Sophia appeared. She entered the room without showing much emotion and said, Tomorrow is your birthday. I talked to Maria. We're going to throw you a party. Let's forget what happened. From now on, everything will be better. That surprised me. For a moment, I felt happy for the original protagonist, but he wasn't there anymore. Since the night he wrote to me, his presence had completely dissolved. I accepted. I just said, okay, because I had only one intention, to say goodbye in front of everyone, and leave them with the final image of Jorge dying. Today is my birthday. Lucia sent me a message early in the morning. Happy birthday. I put on a white suit and went to the terrace where the party was being held. Makoto was also wearing white. I recognized the brand of his suit, much more expensive than mine. Ridiculous. They talk about a new beginning, about reconciliation, but deep down they still prefer Makoto, and they still find it strange that the original protagonist chose to die. Upstairs, everyone was toasting with champagne, chatting casually, when my parents saw Makoto. They immediately called him over and began introducing him to the most influential guests, securing his future. The truth is, he didn't need an entrance exam. My parents would open any door for him. Meanwhile, I, the son of their blood, had absolutely nothing. "Jorge, come here," Sophia called me. I went to her and heard, "Today, apologize to your older sister and your parents. That way, no one will blame you anymore." "You've disappointed us a lot lately," I replied. "Okay," she smiled. "I knew that deep down you were a good person. With time, your second sister will also change. She was always like that. She would hit me and then give me candy. She never really changed." The party went on, and it was time for my speech. It was the perfect cue. I would go up on stage, say a few words on behalf of the original protagonist, and drink the poison. But Makoto ran to the wall. With tears in his eyes and a dramatic voice, he said, "There's something I've always wanted to tell you." He looked at my parents, at my sisters, and declared, "Dad, Mom, sisters, I'm adopted. I know I'll never be as good as Jorge. I always tried to obey, thinking that way I wouldn't be mistreated." My mother reacted immediately. "Makoto, did Jorge mistreat you?" Maria also said, "Makoto, you can tell us everything. If it was Jorge, I'm with you." I watched the scene in silence. Sophia didn't say anything either. Makoto wiped his eyes and continued, "Jorge beats me in secret. He threatens me so. I won't tell anyone. I keep asking myself what I did wrong to deserve this. That's why I decided to kill myself today." Then he threw himself against the wall. Everyone screamed. My mother fell to her knees. "Makoto, don't do that. Mom will help you. Do you want me to punish Jorge?" He replied, "But Mom, Jorge is your real son. I'm just adopted. I'll always be at his mercy." My mother replied, "Then let's kick Jorge out of the family. That way you won't have to be afraid anymore." Maria approached him with an affectionate, "Look, it was all an act, a ridiculous emotional ploy." I calmly stepped off the stage and walked over to Makoto. Sophia intervened. "Dad, Mom, are you going to believe everything Makoto says? There's no proof. Jorge is your son." Makoto insisted. "Sophia, I know you don't like me, but it's clear that Jorge is wrong. Can't you see?" I approached him, took his hand, and said, "Come on, let's jump together." I tried to pull him to the edge, Makoto screamed. A grown man crying like a child. Maria screamed, "You've gone mad, Jorge. Let him go." My mother also begged, "Son, let him go. You're a monster." I just said, "Why all the crying? I'm going to die with him." I pushed Makoto further out. He screamed. He wet himself. The whole scene was pathetic. I laughed. "Weren't you the brave one? Why are you wetting yourself?" I held his clothes tightly and pulled him further out. "Do you want me to stop pushing you? Then tell me, have I ever hit you?" He whimpered. "I'll tell you. Jorge never hit me." Maria's eyes widened. "Makoto, why did you say that then?" He replied, "Because I wanted Jorge to be expelled." I threatened him. "Go on. If I had known it would work, I would have done it much earlier." Drops of urine fell over the edge. He added, "I was jealous. Jorge had everything. I did. And out of jealousy, it was my fault." I continued. "What about the entrance exam? That too?" Silence. Then he replied, "It was me. I planned everything. I wanted everyone to hate Jorge." And in that moment, everything made sense. My parents and Sophia were stunned. Maria shook her head, disappointed. "Makoto, I trusted you so much," my parents said. "We always thought you were a good boy," Sophia muttered. I told you, don't judge without proof. Makoto then looked at me. Now can you let me go? I smiled and pushed him away. Then I jumped too. Sophia ran desperately. Jorge, listen to your sister. We were wrong. Please don't do it. My mother stared at me in silence. Then she said, I'm sorry, Jorge. Mommy regrets everything. I looked at Maria. Her eyes were red, her face remorseful. I'm sorry, brother. Now everyone wanted to redeem themselves, but the real protagonist was no longer there to hear them. What a pity, I said. If apologies were enough, there wouldn't be people wanting to die. I closed my eyes and threw myself into the void. But at the last second, Sophia grabbed my hand. Maria also threw herself forward to pull me back. Both of them cried uncontrollably. Sophia sobbed, I'm sorry, brother. Second sister will never scold you again. I know I was wrong. Since that day with the poison, I've carried the guilt. But thank God you survived, Maria cried along with her. Yes, Jorge. Every family has disagreements. After we talk, everything can get better. I tried to break free. Let me go. I don't want sisters like you. But I couldn't die. They both pulled me and put me in a room. They locked everything. They took away any sharp objects. That's when I regretted doing that in front of everyone. I should have chosen a secluded place. Now I was trapped. And Lucia, I had no idea how she was. And before leaving, I didn't want to see her. If I saw her, I would lose my chance to leave. I just hope that, as the original protagonist wished, after my death she will be able to start a new life. I heard that Makoto was kicked out of the house, but my parents still had feelings for him. They continued to give him money in secret. It's like they say, a dog can't stop eating what's bad for it. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. At least I was able to clear the original protagonist's name. Sophia came to see me. She brought a watch. It was the same one the protagonist loved, even though she knew it had only been bought for Makoto. She handed it to me and said, I'm sorry, second sister. I've thought about it a lot. I realize my mistakes. She looked at me with regret. You've suffered too much, Jorge. We both judged you wrongly for a long time. I didn't answer. I threw the watch in the trash. Sophia stood frozen. I saw tears streaming down her hand and falling onto mine. I've been thinking about our childhood lately, she said. You were always playing tricks on me. But now I know you did it because you loved me like a sister, didn't you? At that moment, I was overcome by a memory from the original story. It was true. The protagonist really liked her. She was the only one who really listened to him. She never scolded him for playing video games, the only affectionate bond he knew. But he was just a child, not knowing how to express it, so he played pranks thinking it would make her happy. Sophia continued, If you don't answer, I'll take that as a yes. He cried with happiness. Before, I didn't understand anything. I fought with you, but now I understand everything. Forgive me, second sister. If you can't accept me, that's okay. I'll go away. My parents also appeared. My mother was silent for several minutes until she said with difficulty, Take care of yourself. And almost in a whisper, Son. If only the original protagonist could have heard that. Maria was the last to arrive. She brought food she had prepared herself and placed it in front of me. I was the one who hurt you the most. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I don't want you to die because of me. The world is so beautiful. You are still young. You have so much to live for. Please, live, I replied. Get out of here. Just seeing her made me nauseous. I never forgot the first day I arrived here. She was the one who beat me until my body was covered in wounds. She's worse than Sophia. Sophia at least still had a trace of humanity. I'm sorry, Maria cried uncontrollably. I regret everything so much. How could I treat my brother like that? Jorge, I'll make it up to you somehow. But there are mistakes that cannot be undone. The death of the original protagonist, for example. He was gone, and he would never come back. I ran away. I hit one of the employees and escaped. I didn't expect to find Lucia right at the exit. She ran up to me and hugged me tightly. I was waiting for you. She told me that when she saw the news on the internet about my intention to commit suicide, she started looking for me. She knew I was locked in, so she waited near the door. Jorge, you can't die now. Everything has been resolved. In 3 days, university starts. We'll study somewhere else, I replied. Okay. I wanted to tell her the cruel truth, but I couldn't. After all, I don't belong in this world. I have no right to interfere in anything anymore. Lucia took me home. Her mother prepared a hearty meal. Lucia smiled and repeated, "We're only 18. We have a bright future ahead of us. When university starts, we can go out, go to the park, do everything that's fun and important." I bet the original protagonist dreamed of that. An ordinary, simple life full of small joys. Too bad he never had that chance. After the meal, I went to the bathroom. I left a bank card on the sink. It was all the original protagonist had saved. It was for Lucia. I climbed out the window and ran away. I just wanted to find a quiet place to end it all. But I was kidnapped by Makoto. He took me to a warehouse. He tied himself up and put a bomb on both of us. He looked at me, smiling, and said, "I want you to see how much your family loves me more." He had completely lost his mind. I didn't have the strength to fight back. If I was going to die by a bomb, so be it. Sophia and the others arrived shortly after. When they saw us, their eyes widened in fear. Makoto, in a pitiful voice, begged, "Sister, second sister, save me." Maria ran, but stopped halfway. Next to her, a sign read, "Only one person can be saved. Whoever is saved will live. The other will die with the bomb." Sophia, distraught, shouted, "Sister, save Jorge." Maria frowned, hesitant. I thought she had really changed her mind, but it was just an illusion. "You don't need to save me. I've already chosen to die." "We're going to save you," exclaimed Sophia, coming toward me. Makoto suddenly broke the ropes, ran towards me, and stabbed me in the heart. "Since you love him so much, now he dies," Sophia screamed, hugging me. "Jorge, please don't do this to me." Maria, her face white with fear, kicked Makoto away. "Brother, let's go to the hospital. Hang in there, please." I heard nothing more. I was already dead. I found myself in a completely dark place. A voice spoke to me. "Guest, you have fulfilled the original protagonist's wish. You can go home now." I asked, "What about the protagonist?" The voice replied, "He and Lucia will meet in another universe. There, they will love each other and live happily ever after. We wish you luck in your future days." I simply replied, "Thank you." Then everything lit up. I returned to my world. Cars were racing down the avenues. People were rushing around talking on their cell phones. My life as an ordinary employee had begun again. After my death, Sophia shaved her head and became a nun. She spent her entire life unable to forgive herself. She thought she was responsible for what happened to me. If she hadn't suggested that they adopt Makoto, he would never have joined the Wang family, and I might still be alive. She spent the rest of her days immersed in regret. Makoto was sentenced to death. Maria sank into depression. She kept wondering if things would have been different if she hadn't spoiled Makoto so much. Perhaps if she had realized sooner who he really was. But in this world, there are no ifs. She spent her life staring out the window, her eyes empty. She dreamed too late that perhaps the 3 siblings could have lived in harmony. Lucia went to study in a city in the south. She was happy, although she didn't know why. She felt she had promised something to someone. With her backpack on her back, she entered the dormitory and took a letter out of her pocket. She said to her classmates, "I'm rich tonight. Dinner is on me." She had no idea where that bank card had come from. She only knew that her mother had found it in the bathroom with a password written on it. There was 1,000,000 yuan in it. She wanted to use the money to fulfill many dreams. That night, as she was going out to eat, she ran into a bald woman. She stared at her for a long time. She seemed familiar. "Lucia?" the woman said in a hoarse voice. "I'm Jorge's second sister. I found the love letter in his room. You liked him, didn't you?" Lucia froze. The name Jorge sounded familiar, but she couldn't remember who he was. Sophia took her to a coffee shop. When she saw the love letter, she understood that Lucia was the person Jorge loved. That rebellious brother, who only seemed to know how to provoke Makoto, also had someone special in his heart. Now Sophia understood that there was much more to him than she had ever imagined. Lucia listened to every word. She saw a photo. She recognized the face. He was a good, kind person. He had passed the entrance exam. They would be together at the same university. She whispered, "Jorge. He's the boy I loved the most." Then she looked into Sophia's eyes and said, "You are all responsible for his death." Sophia stood motionless. She began to cry. "Forgive me. I failed him. And that's why I'm going to live the rest of my life trying to make up for it. I just want to know more about him. I want to hear his stories." Lucia shook her head. "No, you don't have the right. Those who do wrong don't deserve forgiveness." She got up and left. At that moment, everything around her went dark. When she opened her eyes, she was back at her old school. A voice said, "Welcome to the parallel world. Here begins a new life for you and Jorge."